Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about We Were Liars Season 1. So this show came out in June 2025 on Amazon Prime. This show is based off of a novel. The novel also has the same title, and it was written by that of E. Lockhart. And she created two books. One is We Were Liars, and well, actually three. One was We Were Liars, and then a prequel called Family of Liars. Then there's another book. I'm not quite sure what the heck it's about. But like, she worked on this show. She wrote the teleplay for like the last episode and stuff like that. But the show, however, was created by Julie Plec and Karina Ailey McKenzie. And so this show has 8 episodes to it. And that's one problem I have with this show. It's only 8 episodes. Look, I am sick and tired of American TV shows being 6, 8, 10 to 13 episodes. Give me more than that. I'm old. I'm in my 40s. I'm used to 20 something episodes. I'm used to stuff being fleshed out. When I watch this show, I feel like there are so many missing pieces to a puzzle, and I want to be able to see it and hear it with my senses and everything. And so 8 episodes just isn't enough for me because there are a couple of characters in here. Some you get to know pretty well. One I don't really know all that well at all. And then there are the mother slash aunts who, okay, first of all, I kept getting them confused. Look, there's a lot of blonde people in this show. Okay? And the moms all look similar, except for the tall one. I can tell her apart. But the short two, I have to look at their faces because one has a mole. And because of that, I don't know their names and I don't know which kid belongs to which parent. There are a lot of blonde people in this show, okay? It gets confusing for me. And so there's just some characters I wish could have been fleshed out a bit more and stuff. So I wish they had more episodes so I can get a sense of certain things that are supposed to happen in this show. Because I have never read the book, you know what I'm saying? And after watching this show, I literally had to go online and fill in some of the pieces. Like, I never understood. See, it's about four group of kids, well, teenagers, I should say. But the show revolves around one central character, the eldest teenager. And they're called the Liars. And I never ever understood why in this series they're called liars and everything. Maybe they mentioned it. I don't remember. Like when it comes to Pretty Little Liars, I know exactly why they're called liars and everything. But when it comes to this show, I have no idea why they're called liars. Halfway into the season, we get a flashback as to when they are kids and they put their hands together and they're all like, we are the liars. That's what they started calling each other. I'm like, okay, cool. Why are you called that? So I had to go online and it seems that when they was kids, all they did was lie. And the grandfather called them liars and stuff. And I'm like, okay, could we have, like, show that? Like, just show that. Because I was so confused and everything. Because as they got older, you don't really see them lying and everything. And so it's little things like that I had to look up online to figure out what the heck is going on. Also, some names because, like I said before, there's just too many blonde people in this show. And I was getting people confused. Also, I had to look up why So, cause see, it takes place during two timelines specifically, but there's a third timeline in there from when they was younger. I assume when it says summer 16 and summer 17, I assume that meant 2016 and 2017. And we do tend to get some older music. But then as the show kept going on, I'm just like, hold up, something's not making sense. This can't be 2016 and 2017. Even though, yes, they are years apart and everything, the two different timelines and stuff. Because when one of the mothers were talking, she said her summer 16. I'm like, well, hold up, is this an age or something like that? And yes, it turns out that's what it means. It's not the year, it's the age of the character and everything. But I had no idea what exactly that meant. Now, this is not traditionally a show I will watch. See, back in the day, like I never watched those WB shows like One Tree Hill, Dawson's Creek, Gilmore Girls, Gossip Girl, like Veronica Mars. I never watched any of that stuff. I'm not into like preppy, aristocrat, trashy type shows. You know what I'm saying? Plus, back in the WB days, I didn't have cable. But when I did have cable, I still didn't watch that stuff. It's just not my cup of tea. And same thing with reality TV. I don't watch the Kardashians. I don't watch Real Housewives of this, and that. Like I don't watch that trashy type show. You know what I'm saying? When I used to watch reality TV, it was dancing competitions or those dating ones like Flavor of Love, Rock of Love. You know, those were the only trashy ones I will watch. But then once I found out reality TV is fake, I just stopped. Well, I kept on with the dancing ones, but after a while, I got done with the dancing ones too. Because I found out Flavor of Love and then the Rock of Love just was completely fake. I'm like, oh man, that was so good. So I don't traditionally watch shows like this. And this show is very much like that. A very rich, aristocratic, stuck up family that is very trashy and everything. And so, if you're wondering, then why the heck did I watch this show? Well, there are two specific reasons. One, when I got Amazon Prime again, I was looking for new stuff to watch before my membership is up. And so this thing kept popping up on TV called We Were Liars. And I'm just like, okay, and like I can't even see the faces of like the cast because it's that back view of them where they're on the dock pier and you just see the back of them. I'm like, I don't care. I can't even see their faces and stuff. So I just kept ignoring it and everything, right? And so it just kept popping up. I'm like, what the heck is this and stuff? So I just didn't pay attention. Then all of a sudden, the weirdest thing happened. I was on YouTube and a video got recommended to me and it just popped up. And it's that of Emily Allen Lyd. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's the third Lyd sister I've never seen before. Let me give a little bit of like clarity as to what I'm talking about, a little context and everything, content, so whatever you call it. So, Barbara Woodland, I think that's her name. I've mentioned before, you know, I used to watch a show with her in it called Honey, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the television series syndicated back in the 90s. Oh, I love that show so much. Boy, it's not on streaming. Well, it is on streaming. You just have to pay for it, like additional charges and stuff. I ain't doing that. That show was syndicated. It should be free. It should be on Tubi. Why it's not, I don't know. It used to be free on YouTube, but like the YouTube police took it down. Anyway, so Barbara was on that show and I had a mad crush on her, right? And so I've seen her in some other stuff like Striptease and Desperate Housewives and Chucky, the television series. I never saw her in One Tree Hill, just not my cup of tea. And so like I talked about this in the first episode review of season 1 of Chucky, and how like the youngest Lid sister is in that show. I forget her name. Alavina, I think it is. Something Lid. She was in that show as Lexi. And I talked about how, like, I've seen Avelina, like, in a lot of stuff. Like, okay, now I've seen her in Chucky, the Spiderwick Chronicles. I think that's what it's called. Daybreak on Netflix, and the Dolly Parton movies. I was about to say her name differently, but Dolly Parton. Remember those Christmas and like movies on NBC she used to have in her childhood? Avelina played Lil Dolly Parton and everything, and she was amazing. Then there is the oldest sister, Natalie, and everything. And I've seen her in that X-Men spinoff called The Gifted that was on Fox. She was also in one episode of Daybreak, and she was in Pet Cemetery Bloodlines and everything. And so I stated, have I been a fan of this entire family? However, there is one family member I've never seen before, and that's Emily. She doesn't star in anything that I watch. And so I'm not going to go out my way to watch it, because I made that mistake with a movie called Womb, and I'll never do that again. I reviewed that movie. That movie's gross. And everything. Because there was two actresses in that. I'm like, woohoo, and everything. But I'm like, ugh. I couldn't believe what I saw. So she was on somebody's podcast being interviewed, and they was asking her about a bunch of stuff, and they were talking about like how technically she is a nepo baby. Her mom's in the industry, her sisters are, and this and that, and she gets it. Like she understands. Yo, I am a nepo baby and everything, and like how some celebrities kind of like, oh, but whatever, I'm not that, or they're like, oh, nobody opened doors for me and blah blah blah. Like she gets it, like, you know what I'm saying? And then another clip came up about her being in We Were Liars. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, she's in that show. Well, I guess I have a reason to watch it now and everything. Because I was very curious to see how she acts and everything, right? Because she's the middle child, Natalie's the oldest one, even though she's kind of shorter, and Avelina is like the youngest, but she's starting to be taller now. And you know what? All three sisters kind of resemble each other a little bit, but Emily looks more like Avelina. However, this blew my mind as I was watching the show. I'm just like, who does she look like? I'm just looking and I'm looking, and then when her character dyed her hair brown, I'm like, holy crap. She looks like Helen Brohan Carter and everything. I swear to God, she looks like her. It's kind of hard to tell with these pictures, but if you watch the show and you see her move around and you see her like talking and eyes move around, looks just like her. She looks just like her. Like she is literally like a clone version of that woman. They could be daughters and everything. It is insane how much they look alike and everything. So I'm all like, well, I've always wanted to see her act, so I guess I'll watch the show. So in the first couple of seconds of like the show, she's narrating, and she's in her underwear face down in a lake, and there's blood dripping from her forehead. And she's basically, I'm like, what the heck is going on? So she's basically talking about how did she get there? I'm thinking, oh snap, it's a like who done it wannabe murder mystery. I'm totally in and stuff like that. So, like, I love watching stuff like that, They're so good and intriguing and juicy and stuff like that. So I'm all like, this is gonna be good. Then I watched it, and it's not what I thought it was gonna be. It's really not what I thought it was gonna be. Like, it's so far removed from that. It's mostly just, it's kind of hard to describe. Okay, it's a part romance story, and just a family drama, a family constantly bickering with one another. And as I'm watching, I'm just like, okay, so somebody must have tried to kill her, right? We see a person grabbing her body and turning it around, so it's kind of like, who did it? So I assume, you're gonna have somebody lurking behind like bushes or around the corner. She's constantly gonna be interrogating people, constantly trying to figure out what's going on with her. And it's not really like that. Like, it's not really like that at all. Like, there's a little bit of that, but it's mostly just family crap. And then there's a huge twist towards the end that had my jaw on the ground. Like, I was shocked and surprised. And that twist was heartbreaking. Like, you feel it in your chest, you feel it down in your gut and everything, because it's a twist. Like, that's just huge and everything. And I respect that twist. I don't respect going through 8 episodes of kind of being bored, but I do respect that twist. Is the twist enough for me to think this is the greatest show of all time? No. However, even though I do not think it's the greatest show of all time, I do find it somewhat captivating and everything. It is kind of interesting to see these people go through their lives and what they're about and stuff like that. However, like I said before, this is not my type of show I will watch, because I never watched the trailer. I didn't look it up online. I just went in blind because I get tired of like spoiling myself. And sometimes when I don't try to spoil myself, I end up getting spoiled, because say I go to Wikipedia and I want to look up the cast and everything, then like information about their characters come up and I'm like, ah, crap, I glanced at it too long. And so I just went in blind and everything. I mean, I'm happy I watched this. Like I said, twist was like amazing and everything. And I'm glad I finally got to see her act and everything. But it's just kind of like, see, my problem is I assumed this show was gonna like be traditional and a whodunit mystery type thing. And while it technically is kind of like that, it's so far removed from being like that. And I was just like wondering, why the heck am I going through all these people's lives and romances and melodramatic like moments, and I like, what is this about? Like, I just didn't understand. But that's how the book is and everything. Now, there are differences between the book and that of like, the television show, because, this was more written in the modern day. So yes, there is messaging in the show, like a lot of it and everything. However, there is messaging also in the book, just not to the strong degree, I believe, in the show, because Cadence, our main character played by Emily, she comes off more like a very ultra progressive social justice warrior and everything in the show. From what I read online, from what people are saying, she's not really like that in the book. She's just another stuck up heiress and everything. But they try to make this more modern, you know? And I can appreciate that, because I mean, you don't want like this little fantasy, like fairy tale and everything. You want it to be somewhat realistic, because there is 2 Indian characters, both in the book and in the television show. And so in the book and also in the show, these 2 Indian characters, they have to go through the subtle racism of this family and everything. That's both in the book and in the show. So if the book doesn't really have her being social justice warrior type, I appreciate them doing that in the show, because how can you overlook that? You know what I'm saying? Messaging is not a bad thing. It's here to teach people to be better and everything. The problem is there's a certain group of people who feel like, that makes me feel guilty and everything. That makes my race feel guilty and everything. So they don't want to see that and everything. And so, but there are other differences, like, in the book and television show, which I'll get to at the end. I'm gonna go through a very quick like character bio because there's really not much to gather from these characters and stuff. Because what you see is what you get because it's only 8 episodes, you know what I'm saying? And so then I'll give you like a synopsis of what the show is about and things I liked and things I did not. But because of that twist at like the end and everything, honestly, if that was gonna be the twist and the real reveal and everything, and this could have been just a 2 hour movie. Because if they wasn't gonna do the whole character development with these characters, then there was really no point in making it 8 episodes. You know what I'm saying? So let me hurry up and get through this character bio like really, really fast. So this deals with the Sinclair family, a very rich family. And so Taft Sinclair is nowhere to be found in the show. They're in the book. I believe it's like Johnny's brother, but he is nowhere to be found like in the show whatsoever. And so let's go with the matriarch, that of Tipper Sinclair. She is the grandmother, and one thing she likes to do is dangle her pearls in front of her daughters and make them jealous and make them assume one day they might get it and stuff like that. It is a very trashy, nasty, rude family and everything, where the grandparents use money as leverage over their like kids and grandkids and stuff. And so I think it was like 4th of July, and all of a sudden she's just sitting in a chair talking to him, and she just straight up die and stuff. Like I'm just like, whoa, is she really dead? Yeah, she did and everything. Harrison, he is the patriarch. He is the grandfather. He has a very strong, stern voice. In the beginning, he seems like he is very nice and everything. But then somewhere towards the middle, he starts to get very angry and very rude. He is a casual racist and everything, calling Asian people the O word and stuff, something you're not supposed to do. I've met like at least 3 people who've used that word. 2 were, well, one's about like 2 years older than me, one's about 10 years younger than me, and one is a relative. And it's just like, okay, the relative is very old fashioned, and so I understand that, but still is wrong. The people who are like near my age and younger, there is no excuse. They've been taught that by their parents and stuff. And just guess what race they are. And everything. And so, yeah, he is a casual racist. Like, Cadence, the main character, she calls him out on it constantly. And he just doesn't see anything wrong with calling them that and everything. He's like, it's something, it's like it's in like the dictionary or something like that. He says something, and then when she keeps calling him out on it, he's all like, I'm not a racist, I'm a Democrat. But then he slips and falls and hits his head, and there's tons of blood. And so he has memory loss a year later from the fall. But it's different in the book. Basically, with him, is that he is aristocratic, very rich. He had a newspaper company, got very rich. He owns his own island, has a house on it. And he has 2 brothers who he has literally banned from like the island and stuff. And every summer he brings his whole family over and they compete for stuff. Like they have like this lemon hunt. And if you find the most lemons, you get like fudge or something like that. And if you find a green lime, you take his house. And so, but he cheats by hiding the lime in his office. And so, like, he does this, they'll watch his family bicker over stuff, the fight over stuff. He gets a kick out of it for some reason, especially with, like, his daughters. All he has is 3 daughters and stuff. He doesn't like none of the men that they have married. And because of that, and he sees what they have went through, he tries to prevent his grandkids from dating and marrying people, especially that of people of color. Like I said, there are 2 Indian guys, and one of his daughters is dating one, and his granddaughter is dating the other. And he gets along with them fine, but like Cadence calls him out, like, you don't want them in the family picture, because the family picture is white people with blonde hair, blue eyes, and like a square chin, and here are these two brown people and stuff. He will never admit that he is racist, but he is like racist on the show and everything. And he just thinks like nobody's good enough for his family because all his daughters, like husbands, who are all white, they have screwed his daughters over either by cheating, taking money, this and that. And so it's not so much that he just doesn't want no brown people or people of color in his family. He just doesn't trust nobody dating his family members and stuff. Cadence seems to be his favorite out of all of them because she is the oldest and everything. And she seems to be the most responsible, and with her head on straight than the other two grandkids and stuff. And but like I said before, he will use money like to over leverage and stuff. Like when Carrie, like she keeps telling him that, I haven't touched my trust fund. That's a lie. She had to bribe somebody by not having her son go to jail. And so because of that, he will pay, whatever debt she has off, as long as she dumps her boyfriend who is Indian. And so, so he uses that, as leverage to get what he wants and for his own, whatever reasons and stuff. And then when Cadence does remember her memories and stuff, because she has amnesia, he tries to manipulate her and everything in a very disgusting and nasty way. Carrie, she is Johnny's mother. She is a drug addict and everything, and she's dating Ed. And so basically, like I said before, she had to break up with Ed because of something Johnny did. Bess, she is Miriam's mother, and she is now going through a divorce. Her husband is leaving her, and I think he cheated on her. So while she's still married, she hooks up with this one guy. Her daughter finds that out and tells the cousins. They go back and tell other people. The grandfather finds out and isn't too happy about that. For some bizarre reason, her and her daughter do not get along. And I'm not 100% sure why that is. It's never really truly made all that clear, but they don't get along. They try to cram in this big dramatic moment between these two, but it just felt forced because I didn't understand where this was coming from. Because before that argument, they don't interact with each other. So I'm like, what the heck is going on between those two? Penny, she is the mother of Cadence. She is the most dastardly one of them all because when her mother dies, she literally goes in the casket and steals the pearls and stuff, which causes the other two sisters to bicker with her. When it comes to the sister slash mom's aunts, all they do is bicker. Every time they are on screen with one another, they bicker and everything. And I'm just kind of like, Lord have mercy, this is so trashy. In fact, if the show gets a sequel, it's going to be on the prequel book. And the prequel book is through the perspective of Carrie and how this whole falling out started and the whole Rosemary Sinclair thing. But back with Penny, when her father hit his head and bleeding, she literally tells her daughter as he's being carried away by a helicopter, if he dies, run. Well, first, whether he dies or not, go to his study, find his will, and if it doesn't leave us nothing beneficiary, burn it, because she don't want none of her sisters to get anything that he has and stuff. She desperately needs money. I forget why that is. I think it's because her husband left her and stuff. And all the Sinclair daughters, they desperately need money, which was kind of odd when I heard that. Come on, like, yo, the grandfather is like super rich. Dude owns his own island. Dude has a mansion. Dude has a boat taxi service to bring people back and forth to the island and stuff. Like, why do they need money? Ed. So Ed is the Indian character who is Gat's uncle, and he's dating Carrie and later becomes her fiance. And so he's a very nice, gentle man, British too. And so, like, he feels the racism of that family from time to time. At the funeral, one of the family members, another family member with no name, no speaking, nothing like that, she mistaken him for one of the waiting staff, even though he's not dressed like them and he was dressed for a funeral. And this really offended him because, he sees that this family just looks down on him because and automatically assumes he's like, part of like the housekeeping staff just because of his brown skin and everything. And so when Carrie starts to have like a drug addiction, all of a sudden, in like, I think it is like summer of 17, I believe, like he's just completely disappeared. And it's like, where this dude at? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's supposed to be with her. But then we found out that the grandfather basically made him go away and forbidded him from going to like, the island. But he comes back towards the end because him and like Carrie get back together and stuff. The Liars. The Liars is this very tight group of cousins along with Gat. Gat is the nephew of Ed. And Gat was actually found by that of Cadence in the boathouse and everything when they was little kids. And they became best friends ever since and fell in love with one another. They do everything together. And I mean everything. They party together. They go to the beach together. They're always constantly hanging out with each other. In fact, minus Gat, I assume that the Liars were all brother and sisters, but they're actually cousins and stuff. And yes, they do tend to fight with one another, just like all teenagers do. Cadence is the oldest one, and I'm not sure about the other two in terms of like age. Miriam, she's the one least developed. It's kind of hard to figure out what's going on with her. We see that she is a painter. We later find out that she feels neglected by her entire family. Whenever she goes to hang out with Cadence, Cadence is always bringing up Gat. And so when she told Cadence about her mom begging this one dude, Cadence went and told like somebody, I think her mom, and her mom, of course, went and told the grandfather. And so this really made Miriam pissed at Cadence. And it's to the point because she's angry at her for this one episode and one episode only. You stop to think, could she be the one who knocked out Cadence and put her in the water and everything? Who knows, you know what I'm saying? But like I said before, her and her mom just don't get along. And so she's kind of manic in a way. And she ends up banging the boat taxi driver dude. And so, like, at one point, her mom gave her a compliment, talking about, you look really pretty today. So, defiant, like a teenager, she just chopped all her hair off into like some type of mullet looking thing. Teenagers, what can I say? Johnny, he is pretty much the most outgoing of all of them. He is gay. He is very, very, very privileged and everything. And he understands he's privileged, even to the point of talking down to Gat, even though Gat is his best friend. But he will legit talk down to that dude. He is the epitome of what a privileged, spoiled brat looks like and everything. And he shows it off and he boasts about it and everything. He's very arrogant. He has that of a brother. And he also, I think those might be his two twin sisters and everything. His brother went missing, and so him and Gat went looking, but of course Johnny don't pay attention to nothing. He goes and swim to get him, but when things get too tough, he decides he's gonna drown himself, only for Gat to save him. He finds out his mom has a pill addiction and stuff. However, part of her depression comes from what Johnny did a year ago. See, at the funeral, there's a guy who's pretending to get with Miriam and everything. And just so he can get to Johnny. Johnny don't like this guy. Why? Because Johnny did a very, very bad thing. He videotaped himself beating up a student because this student like pissed in his locker or something like that. Because of that, he faced charges and stuff where his mother had to use her trust fund to pay off these people so they won't send Johnny to jail, but they wanted more retribution and stuff. So the whole tennis team just basically hates him and wants to come after him and stuff. And like there's one episode in Summer 17 where Cadence hacks his phone and finds the video footage and shows his mom. His mom has pretty much known what he did, but I don't think she's ever seen it. When he finds this out, he is furious. He's so furious that you literally believe multiple times he probably is the one who attacked Cadence and stuff. But other than that, he does actually have a nice side to him, but he realizes he is a screw up in life. Gat, he met Cadence when he was just a little boy. For some reason, he was hiding out in the boathouse crying and stuff, and those two just became the best of best friends. He really does care for her and love her and stuff. But like, you know, and they do everything together, but they're not together. That's the thing. They're just friends. However, when he came back to see her and everything, he kisses her, but she finds out he has a girlfriend in India when he went back to go visit his mom. His dad died, and his mom decided he would have a better life if he was to hang out with the Sinclairs and everything, because they can afford to do things that she can't. Side note, his mom is played by Karen David. She is best known for Fear the Walking Dead, Once Upon a Time as Jasmine. Oh, she was in Gallivant and everything. Every time I see her in a new project, she has a different accent. And so, because she has a British sounding voice. But here she's talking like American. I don't know why she didn't use her British accent because Ed has one. But anyways, and so, like, Cadence get pissed at him, right? Because he cheated on his girlfriend with her, and she gets pretty jealous and tries to make him jealous. Eventually, they do decide to start dating, but there's a problem. The grandfather, he's always giving them strange looks whenever they're together. And Gat is the voice of not so much reason, but like awareness and everything, because the family is kind of unaware that their grandfather is racist, and it's always Gat who has to bring it up and reminds them that he'll never be able to fit in their family because of the way he looks and stuff. And so Cadence takes this to heart, and this is when she challenges her grandfather about his overt racism and stuff. But him and her really truly do love each other, but the grandfather's gonna try to put an end to it. So he realizes, I just need to get rid of Gat. So what does he do? He offers him a full scholarship to this really prestige college. His mom knows and Gat knows that if he turns this down, he'll never get an opportunity like this again. But the grandfather is doing this so that Cadence can't follow him, or he can't be with Cadence, and he'll be off to college and stuff. And so he goes until he sees like something like not ambulance, but like a helicopter at the island. So he heads back because he thinks Cadence is in trouble. We, the audience, assume this is when Cadence was in the water, making it seem like, okay, Gat's not responsible, because all throughout the show, he always gives these strange looks and everything. making you think he might know something or did something. And so, like, but it turns out it was actually the grandfather who slipped and fell and hit his head. But he didn't go to school, like, that summer and stuff. Now, when it comes to him and Cadence' relationship, this is where extra episodes will come in handy. I never understood why they love each other or why they're infatuated with each other or why they even like each other. And it's like I never really felt the romantic chemistry between the two. This is where extra episodes will come in very handy. Cadence. So when it comes to Cadence, I'm going to give just a synopsis of who she is, but I'm also going to do the overarching like plot of the show through her, since she is the main character and everything is through her perception. She narrates every episode in the beginning and in the end. And so with her, like I said before, she's very kind, very sweet. She loves Gat, and she's a social justice warrior type person. And so she does not get along with her father because he left her and his mom on her mom and financially screwed them over and stuff. She won't even hug him. I think she'll just like shake his hand because that's what like her mom does. And just like with all the rest of the kids, she doesn't get along with her mother either and stuff. And so, like I said before, this show starts off with her like in her underwear, laying face down in like the lake and everything, or the ocean, I should say, because they have the yeah, it's an ocean because they're on the island. So face down on in the ocean and everything, and she's narrating, and you see a blood splat on her forehead and and it floating around with the water. You assume, okay, maybe she got shot in the head. That's how she got amnesia. No, there's no hole in her head. It's more like a scratch and everything. So it's like, who is the person who found her, and who did this to her, right? And she's curious to know who did it as well. Now, a whole year passed by, and she's having seizures every time she tries to remember what happened. She has a seizure and forgets completely what happened and when she wakes up. Or if somebody tells her what happened to her, she will have a seizure, pass out, wake up, not remember. So because of that, her mom has literally told everybody, do not tell her what happened last summer, because it's just going to trigger her memory and she's going to relapse and have an episode. And she's constantly asking the liars, what the heck happened to me last summer? Why was I face down and everything? They won't tell. They keep saying, we don't know. We keep telling you, we don't know and everything. But they're lying and everything. And she can tell they're lying. For whatever reason, they just will not tell her and stuff. So episodes go by basically with her not asking. They're just flashback episodes from when she was 16. And when she's 16, she has blonde hair. And so, like, we just see her and the family, they interact with each other. Like I said before, they're constantly bickering. The kids, they're having a good time, they're partying. Sometimes they argue. The parents are always bickering. They do the lemon hunt type thing. She's constantly hanging around with Gat. She feels very hurt that he has a girlfriend and would not tell her and everything, and more importantly, gonna kiss her while he has a girlfriend. When they have a party and everything, he brought his girlfriend, but we don't really get no interaction between him and his girlfriend and stuff. We just get her hanging around a bunch of guys and making him jealous. Eventually, they do make things like official and stuff. And like I said before, she hangs a lot with her grandfather, but she is very defiant of him because of that, of his racism. Now in summer 17, she cuts her hair a little bit and she dyes it brown for whatever reason. But it does help to tell which year is which, you know what I'm saying? And so when she's constantly asking people, yo, I want to know what's going on with me and what happened last year, they won't tell. But like I said before, it's very vague when she does start to find out what happened to her and stuff. Like she even forgot that her grandmother had died and they had to remind her of that. Her grandfather wants to take her into town, and when he does, he takes her to a therapist, but it's not for her, it's for him, because he has memory loss from when he slipped and fell, but he tells her this will help you out and everything. So every once in a while, you will see her, it's like somebody will start to tell her what happened, or she will have a memory trigger all on its own, or she'll look it up on the internet and she starts getting triggered and everything, right? About like what happened to her in like the past and stuff. And so she has to take medication for that, and her mom is being somewhat nice but somewhat vague and mysterious and everything. The family home has been like rebuilt and everything, and for the most part, she still hangs around her cousins and everything, wanting to know why they got into arguments like long time ago and this and that, and why Gat didn't go to college that summer and stuff like that, you know. And so she gets so fed up that she tells them, look, just tell me what happened. They're like, yo, we can't. You will literally trip out. But then they're like, okay, look, we'll play Scrabble and we'll give you some words, and hopefully that will slightly trigger a memory, but not so much that where, you know, you spaz out and everything, right? So that's what they do. And she starts to remember things bit by bit. And so when the grandfather slipped, hit his head, and got flown away, all the aunts had to go with him. And so she sent the housing staff away to where it's only the liars in the house. And so they decide, you think, okay, what they gonna do? What they gonna do? Now they decide to wash dishes and everything and dance. But then they decide to get drunk. And when they get drunk and everything, Cadence has a really crazy idea. She's all like, this family is toxic. We're not a family no more. We don't get along. And it's all because of grandfather, and it's all because of this house and his money and his wealth. We should just burn it down to the ground and everything. We should just like get rid of it. Like, she's all like, once this house is gone and once they all realize that, we can come together again as a family and blah, 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 blah. She's drunk. And they're drunk too. They're like, yo, that's an awesome idea. So they get like gasoline from like the boat. They get some newspaper and they start planting it around the house. And the plan was, you know, by midnight when you hear the bell, you know, make sure you're like out of the house, and Gat will be waiting by like the boat, right? And so like, and so when the fires are set, she's running out. But then her memory gets triggered. She realizes something. Grandfather dogs are still in the house. They was asleep because her mom gave them sleeping pills and stuff. Worried, she runs back into the burning house and like try to rescue the dogs, but she can't and everything. And so like she's desperately trying, but everything's breaking apart and flames everywhere. So she has to book it on out of there. And when she runs outside, she's like crying because the dogs are hollering and they are dying. And so in the flash forward, summer 17, she's having a nervous breakdown because she murdered the dogs by mistake and everything. And so like she thinks that's it. And so she goes to see her grandfather and he gives her his wife's pearl necklaces. And she doesn't understand why, but he's all like, you had them that night when they found you in like the water. So Gat asks her, how did you get the pearl necklaces and everything? And so her memory's triggering, and then she remembers everything. And it's a twist that I did not see coming and everything. So basically, she ran back into the house. Wait. She never ran out the house. She was still in the house when it was burning down because she couldn't get the dogs out. But then she ran and got the necklaces. when she ran and got the necklaces and everything, she ran outside and you see her dress is burning by like the ends of the dress. So she's running, the dress is like catching on fire, and the top part of the dress is slipping off her. This is how she ended up in her underwear and everything. The explosion of the gas line to the house blew her, threw her into the water. When she hit the water, she slipped, like it blew her dress completely off. And like, 'cause she had slipped and hit her head. That's where the blood was on her forehead. And that's why she was face down in the water. Nobody killed her and everything. Nobody tried to kill her, because it was just the explosion from, like, them setting the house on fire and stuff. And so that's how she ended up in the water. So it was never really a murder mystery, or was it? It's an unforeseen murder mystery because her memories are rejogging and she remembers something else. Oh, I almost forgot. So also part of the burning down the house was to make Gat somehow look like a hero to, I guess, save everybody or something. That way the grandfather will re-invite him back to the island along with Ed. But as you see, that didn't happen. This entire time in Summer 17, she is interacting with the liars. Thing is, the liars were never really there. It's a hallucination because all the liars died in the fire. And she is responsible because one, it was her idea, and two, she set the fire way too early because she was drunk. It turns out that, like, Gat, who was waiting by the boat, and when the bell started chiming, he didn't see nobody run out, especially her. So he ran into the house to go find her. As he was running into the house, she was running out with the pearls and everything. Miriam, she did not set her fire on time because she's too busy reminiscing about all her paintings and saw that her mom, see, when her and her mom got into an argument, her mom destroyed her paintings, put her fist through them and everything. Her mom had them restored, like taped up and everything like that. She was so overwhelmed and so happy she could not believe that her mom actually did care about her. But when she heard the bells chiming, she quickly tried to light the fire and everything, splashing the gas that way and lighting the fire, but it was too late. The moment she opened the door, the flames were like everywhere and she could not get out. Johnny, on the other hand, he was just reminiscing about like life and his family and looking at pictures of his family. And he didn't even have time to set the match or light the match and everything. He just tried to book it on out of there. But when he opened the door, bam, like, flames were everywhere. And they all died and everything. When she found this out, she had the biggest panic attack and nervous breakdown I've ever seen. Her mom, her real mom, no hallucination, came running to her to console her and everything. Her family don't know, except for one person, the grandfather, Harrison. When he saw her clutching onto the pearls, when to get her out the water and everything, he realized that he had the pearls locked up in his home and that the house was burning down. And so, like, he realized she must have had something to do with the fire, and he uses that as leverage. I am still shocked and surprised that, like, 'cause you never get no kind of hint, none whatsoever, that, like, the liars were just a hallucination. Like, when she had that fight with Johnny and everything over the cell phone, that was a hallucination. And so many other things, those dates interacting with that of, like, Gat, hallucination and everything. I could not believe it. But basically, her grandfather tells her there's going to be a news reporter here, and you're going to tell them I'm the greatest man that ever lived, and this and that. And if you don't, I'll just blackmail you and say that, because you did not approve of me approving of your boyfriend, this and that, you just wanted revenge and set the house on fire and stuff. So as she's getting ready to talk to the news reporter, she realized, you know what, I'm not even going to do this. And she just like, hops in the boat and like rides off and everything. Now, personally, I felt like the last episode should have ended when the revelation that she killed her cousins and her boyfriend. But there was 30 minutes left. And so I would have ended the show just like that. That huge nervous breakdown was just like, the way to end the show. But they tapped more stuff onto it, that's in the book. And so then when she was riding off in the boat, it should have ended there, but it doesn't, because it's trying to set up a season 2, because the aunts are talking about like what happened to Rosemary on their summer 16. And so like all of a sudden Carrie is now seeing hallucinations of her dead son. I'm all like, why? Because they're trying to get that season 2 for the prequel and everything. So, mind blown with that huge twist that came out of nowhere. I mean, that's just insane and everything. And I could not believe it. You felt that grief that she felt knowing she murdered the only people she's ever loved and everything. And it's got to be so hard because she's 17 and barely remembers everything. And you know what's interesting is that supposedly this book that it's based off of traumatized Gen Z. Seriously, Gen Z is like weird. This is what makes novels interesting. Yeah, it's like they act like they can't handle no tragedy in their life. Look, ever since they've been alive, this country is nothing but a tragedy. We've been at war and everything. The crazy stuff that goes on in politics and everything. I don't think the 2000s have ever truly been peaceful. I don't think. It's like ever since 2001, it's just been chaotic in this country and everything. I still remember after like 9/11 and everything, how people was treating like Indian and Muslim people and stuff. There was barely any money. People was losing their jobs. It was rough, you know what I'm saying? It felt like the Great Depression. We've gone through like a super virus, like a pandemic and everything. And it's just like the 2000s, I don't think it was ever truly peaceful. Only probably for like a small point in time, but now it's not. Now the country, once again, is divided over politics and everything. There's never truly been no rest in this country from like all the shootings and everything and the racism and, in the protests and everything. I'm telling you, the 1990s was the best decade, man. You knew peace in the 90s. Yeah, it was a little crazy here and there, but you knew peace and everything. So Gen Zs, I don't understand them and their TikTok videos talking about this looks sus, this looks sus, this looks sus, and then it's just like, oh my God, I can't stand them. You know what I'm saying? But here are some of the differences between the book and that of like, the show. So Gat's like mother, she never shows up in the book. She only shows up in like the show, and same thing with Cadence's father. He doesn't show up in like the book. Johnny's sexuality is never explored in the books, but they made him gay for like the show. The 4th of July party never happened. This other party never happened as well. The lemon hunt never happened in the books and stuff like that. What is it? Carrie's drug addiction. Like they knew she had a problem in the books. It was never specifically said exactly what. Cadence. there's a third year in like the book. See, after the events of her burning down the house and everything and losing her memory, she went to Europe for a whole year with her father, and then she came back to like the island and everything. But in the show, they completely just left out like, the whole Europe thing. Also, Rosemary Sinclair, the sister to the aunts and everything. She's mentioned in the prequels, but never in the book this is based off of. And she drowned. How did she drown? It is indicated in the show something bad happened. Um, Trying to think what else. Oh, Ed and Carrie. He never proposed to her in the books. It was a failed attempt and everything. What's her name? What's her name? Was it Bess? Bess was already divorced in the books and everything, and she was never cheated on in the books. But in the show, she was cheated on, and then she has an affair with this other guy and sleeps with him. Miriam never slept with the taxi boat dude and everything. I feel like there's something else I'm forgetting, but I don't know what. I think that is it. Cause I already said the boat party, Fourth of July party. Oh, also in the books, I think Cadence got away with what she did and never told nobody. I don't know if the grandfather ever knew or not in the books. However, the grandfather's memory loss did not come from a fall. It just came from old age and everything. And so, yeah, that's basic. Oh, also Gat. Gat was in the basement in the books, but he's the getaway driver in the show and everything. And so, like, yeah, there are differences here and there, especially with like, the messaging and stuff like that. But for the most part, it seems pretty spot on with that of the novel. Like I said before, it's not a terrible show by no means. It's just not my kind of show, and it's not what I thought it was gonna be. I assumed it was gonna be this big, engaging, like attempted murder mystery, and people following her and threatening her, and getting more character development with the characters as to why they might have done it. Because the show does make you kind of seem like one of the family members did it, but it's always just in one episode for like a couple of minutes, and it needed more episodes and everything. This whole format of 6, 8 episodes just ain't good enough. 10 and 13 can sometimes do it, but you need more than 10 and 13. This is not Europe. This is America. We're used to 20 something episodes and everything. But if it does get that second season that's based on the prequel from the perspective of Carrie, I'm just not gonna come back. I mean, I know what happened with like, the Cadence story. Plus, why go from Cadence to Carrie? You spent the entire season with one grandchild. Now you're gonna go with her aunt and, and go through all her problems and like what happened to Rosemary and and it's just kind of like I don't know if I want to go through all that again because like when I said before, the aunts, even though the aunts have great chemistry together because they seem like real sisters, all they do is fight and bicker and everything, and I don't want to see that, especially when they're younger and everything. And I just don't want to see that crap. I didn't want to see it in this show and everything because I never understood why they're not getting to what happened to Cadence and instead going through all this family drama and stuff. But it is a pretty okay show. Like it does get kind of interesting, and that twist will really get you. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.